Your destination is on the left.
Hey, ha! The red Baroness. Guess where we just got to? I know it's raining, but here we are. Cypress Moon Studios, right on the river. Amazing. We're gonna go inside and talk to that guy here shortly. Stay tuned. Live. Well, not live, but Cypress Moon Studios, Alabama. Oh yeah. Cypress Moon. To your studio. Welcome here to your studio. How are you, man?
Doing good.
Great. Do you want to check and make sure that we're all both in frame, just in case? I'm Corin.
Jamie.
Great to meet you, Jamie, man. Such a pleasure. Really, really cool of you to let us come down here and hang out a little bit.
My pleasure.
Before we get into you want to just tell us a little bit about the studio?
So this was Muscle Shoals Sound post 1978, after they moved out of the Jackson Highway, smaller location. And we're in the Studio B section. There's two studios that are almost identical. The control rooms are almost identical, but the live rooms are slightly different sizes. And we've been here for 3.5 years.
Wow. And this is the original leather on here?
This is the original leather on this console. We brought this console in. They originally had an MCI 500 series console in here, and we just happened to have this before we even moved down here. This was a MCI 600 series, so it's not quite the same as what was down here, but it's pretty close, and we already had this when we moved in. So
gotcha. And was this from another older studio or something? Where'd you guys pick up this?
We bought this from a guy that refurbishes these in Tulsa.
Wow.
So we drove out to Tulsa.
This thing is beautiful.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It's daunting when I stare at that. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, if you look at it, it's just the same thing 36 times.
36 times, exactly.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Amazing. And to just talk about yourself a little bit, were you born around here?
Mm-hmm. I was born here. I spent my childhood years in Huntsville, which is a couple hours away, and we moved back when I was like 13. Spent the rest of my time here.
How was what age did you move to Huntsville?
When I was an infant. So my dad, there's a lot of aerospace stuff that goes on in Huntsville. It's a big aerospace and defense industry town.
Redstone Arsenal's out.
Redstone Arsenal's there. My dad, he worked for McDonnell Douglas at the time. That became Boeing.
Gotcha.
So he was working out there.
Only reason why I know Redstone Arsenal is over there is because that's where they were sneaking the guns off during Iran-Contra. They go.
Oh yeah, was that really?
Smuggle through.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. They were taking old Vietnam era stuff that they didn't need anymore. Like here.
I was probably there around that time. I was probably a little baby when they were doing that in
totally.
the late '80s.
What was it like growing up in Huntsville though? How was that?
It's cool. It's an engineer town. You know, it's like. I don't know if this is true. You have to fact check this to see if this is true, but I've heard that it's like the highest percentage of engineers and PhDs outside of Silicon Valley in the U.S. There may not be any more, but I had heard that at one point.
Right.
So it's a weird town to have that just in the middle of like North Alabama. It's
totally weird.
Yeah. But it's a cool town, but yeah.
How was it? Where did you grow up? Kind of middle class, or were you lower class, or?
I guess middle class, I suppose.
Yeah. What was it like growing up? The reason why I like to ask that is what the childhood experience was kind of like then versus what kids are kind of doing now. But
my childhood there was just total suburbs. Riding bikes in the neighborhood. We didn't have a huge house or anything.
Right.
Although a lot of people do that work in that industry. I mean, there's a lot of money that's in that industry. well, we just kind of lived in a normal house.
Yeah.
You know, went to church, rode our bikes or whatever, did like the normal stuff. You know,
like straight Mayberry.
Yeah, yeah, totally, yeah.
That's good though, man. That's a really great life to be able to have and live. And do you think that afforded you a kind of a psychological kind of emotional stability as well that's helped you out in life?
I'm sure. I haven't done a lot of introspection, with that angle in mind, but I'm sure that played a part, psychologically.
Yeah.
Everything that in your environment.
Were your parents good role models?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And in fact, they're very, like a lot of people in the South. They're very conservative, very religious. So we were kind of brought up in that. Church. I was homeschooled.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of
Far
that was big with a lot of people.
I wish I was homeschooled.
Really?
Schools I went to. Woo.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't know the difference, really.
No, you don't want to know the difference.
I did a couple years when we moved back. I went to public school doing high school stuff, but from a young age. I think they did that to try to, keep it a really religiously oriented.
Did you have any kind of did you push back against the religious thing at a certain point?
Oh yeah, I think everybody I know that grows up in a kind of a conservative environment like that kind of does to a little bit, but I don't think, some people go really far as if it's a pendulum, you'll swing
one way
or the other, but I think I've kind of kept it in the middle.
Oh, that's great, man. Congratulations on that, actually. Because the way you explain it sounds like you almost grew up Amish, but without a horse and carriage.
Yeah. Yeah, especially once we moved back here, we moved out to a really rural. My dad grew up on a farm, so he wanted to do that. So we were out, had goats, so you almost could call it Amish.
Well, what was it like? What was it like when you came out of Huntsville, which is it's strange because it's a bigger city, and you would think that you would have been in the school programs there, but instead you're doing homeschool there. And then when you get back here, what was it like suddenly going into
a county school,
a regular school?
Yeah, I didn't really fit in. Which I think turned out to be good, because it kind of let me develop my own thing. I probably wouldn't be as interested in certain niche things regarding music if I'd just kind of done what everybody else was doing. But it was definitely a kind of a culture shock, I guess you could say. But it was fine.
Man, it's well, I mean, were your parents much into music at all?
My mom played piano and she would play at church. My dad can kind of play a little bit of guitar, but he was never. He liked Southern gospel, and I, as a kid, I didn't want to have anything it seemed really like uptight.
Right.
I wanted to do rock and roll or punk rock or whatever.
Was there ever an issue with the kind of music you wanted to listen to around the house?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember buying all kinds of stuff, and sneaking it in and having it thrown away and stuff. They were very strict as far as wanting you to listen to only, Christian music.
Right. Oh, I remember my mom. My mom was in the music business. She was a graphic designer, though. She worked for a big promotional company in Atlanta back in the 70s and early 80s called Standing Room Only, which did all the biggest shows that came through town.
Cool.
So she did all the poster design for all those shows, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But when we ended up moving to LA, I know what you're talking about because I used to hang out with some rough kind of rough around the edges dudes, and my clothes were like Dickies and Nike Cortezes and pressed white T-shirts and stuff. And my mom was like, she called the local police and was like, "What do gangbangers dress like?" And they told her, and she went in there and collected everything in there that matched the description and threw it out. So when I came home from school, like all my clothes were gone. I was like, "What?" So I know the experience when you're like, "No,
here's some khaki pants."
Yeah, exactly.
Polo.
Oh gosh, that's what I should have been wearing. That's what I should have been doing. When you were getting into your music thing, though, were you about more enjoying it or playing it? Like, did you want to play it? Did you want to sing it, or did you just?
I definitely wanted to play, and I started playing guitar, and really just wanted to be in a band. But there wasn't really anybody, or at least anybody I knew, to be in a band with. I couldn't find anybody that liked the same kind of stuff that I was into. So I would play with people here or there, but the band thing never really worked out. And then as I just kind of became more of like a nerd into listening to records, I couldn't figure out like why does this record sound this way and why does this record sound a totally different way, you know?
That's
So
interesting.
how
old were you around that
probably
time?
13 or 14.
Oh, see, that's
I mean,
interesting.
in my like teenage years, but I didn't really think about it as like I want to do audio engineering. I was just like, why does a Link Ray record not sound like a Ramones record or something, you know? And would just kind of read about it, and then eventually after reading about it for years and years, like the same kind of subject, being like, I should try to record some stuff. So I kind of, you know, bought a little, you know, Mackie mixer and a couple really cheap mics, you know.
Did you have one of those old 8-track recorders?
Yeah, I had a digital one at first, a little Zoom 8-track, and then I bought this little Mackie mixer and just plugged it straight into the computer. The first thing I ever tried to record was with a boombox, where I would record to the boombox, and then I would have to put the tape into a stereo and hit, like if I were to record drums, I would take it out, put it in a stereo, and hit play, and then play again while that's playing out of the stereo in order to overdub, because there's only one track on the boombox, you know.
Exactly,
Yeah.
man. That's a very smart way. I had some buddies that they were doing, you know, had their own little home studio thing, and were always pulling tricks like that to try and pull more tracks out of something, you know. But at that time, I mean, was it hard to pursue that, if you know, without having the full support of the family? Was it a little tough on you?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, they support me. They're not unsupportive, but
I was more referring just to that time period. You know what I mean? Like you know, when you're a teenager and worried, like, oh, my son's gonna go down the wrong track. He's gonna be one of those crazy, you know, rockers out there.
But I definitely had some run-ins with my dad, unfortunately, about that kind of stuff a few times. It's like, in some ways, if you watch those like old, like the Buddy Holly movie or something, where his dad's just like, "Why are you doing that?" Or that feels like very relevant.
Yeah, totally, man.
Even though I'm in the 90s or 2000s or whatever, it's like decades apart, but you still kind of feel like this is the 50s or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, Luke, you're in a vintage studio.
Yeah, so now we're in the 70s. Yeah.
We could shoot that scene right here. What about college, though? I mean, were you pushed in a direction that was going to be more?
Mm-hmm. My dad wanted me to do mechanical engineering, which is what he did, but it was my own fault. It's really hard for me to focus on something that is not as interesting, so I would be off doing other stuff and not focusing on that. And then eventually, after trying to kind of conform to that idea for a while, I was just like, I'm gonna give up on having a nice lucrative job, I guess, and see what I can do with this.
So what was that launch off then? Like when you were in was there like a moment when you were in college and you were sitting there? Did you have that aha moment, like, or that this is it, I'm over this moment? Like,
yeah, I would. I struggled a little bit in the early, the first few years of college because of that, just kind of knowing that it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And then I found out that they had a program there at the University of North Alabama here in town. And so I decided to when I realized that option existed, I was like, okay, I'm just going to try that. And because I was already spending a lot of time on internet forums and reading books and stuff, and might as well be doing that for school, and that was pretty good. It's hard to go into a college to do like something for your major like that when the job market is so bad.
Right.
So I don't know if I could recommend necessarily for people to do that with their life. I don't know if that really gives you a leg up in this day and age, because it's basically just a opportunity for getting an internship, and then you get an internship, but nobody needs anybody in the studio because
or probably wants anybody.
Yeah, and you can kind of learn more on your own anyway. But I don't regret doing that though.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I interned at Fame.
Okay, cool.
And that was Rick Hall was still alive at that point, which was pretty cool. And he was in all the time.
What were some of the bands that came through while you were there?
I didn't get to do that. Was like right before the documentary came out, so it was really slow, and I didn't really get to do that much. And they already had their staff engineer, so I mainly just kind of answered phones
Gotcha.
when I was there, unfortunately. But it was still cool getting to be around it. Rick was in there actually a lot working on solo. He had an acoustic solo record. He played the mandolin, so he would come in there and work on stuff all the time.
That's cool.
But I was outside. I could hear it through the door, but I was answering phone. But occasionally, I would get to go in there and check it out.
So when was your first when was your first opportunity to actually get to get behind this machine here and actually do some real
about late 2010s, kind of that time. I saved up. I started working 2 jobs because I was like, all right, I'm going to need a bunch of really expensive stuff to do this. So I started working 2 jobs, saved up and bought a lot. I worked at the city of Florence in one of their parks during the day, and then I would go and work at Target at night, and then I ended up working at the Marriott. I quit Target and went to the Marriott and worked at the Marriott for a long time. So I was doing the city and then during the day and then working at the Marriott at night.
Sounds exhausting.
It was very exhausting. There's a lot of outside, really hot, like weed eating and stuff that you do during the day, and then you'd have to go be a server at night. But I ended up and did that to buy like a nice laptop and some microphones and stuff, and just started doing it in bands practice spaces. Just people I knew. We would go into practice spaces. One time we did it at a band was practicing at a house that their neighbor was refurbishing, and it didn't have any power, so we had to go to all the adjacent or to one of the adjacent houses and just run a long power cable, and have to plug everything into just this one power cable so we could record. So we did that for a long time. Several years I was doing that, and then there was a small studio spot. There's a guy named Jimmy Nutt.
Yeah. It reminds me the long hair. There was a children's book called The Flying Hockey Stick when I was a little kid. It was like my favorite. It was this little guy this little boy who took a hockey stick and he attached a fan to it and he taped it all up and everything and he hooked it up to all of these. He got all the extension cords from the neighborhood, and then he flew around the entire world with this extension cord connected and had these adventures and stuff. It's hilarious. So you really worked from the bottom to the top. Well,
I'm definitely not at the top.
No, I know, but
by any
from the bottom up.
Yeah.
You didn't. You really busted your butt, man. When did things start to grow for you as far as the music business goes?
It got a little better once we got a fixed location downtown. We were there for a couple years. And then they put in a club right next to it. We couldn't record there anymore because of the noise. And then probably the biggest breakthrough was just being able to come down here, because Tanya in this spot, she's kind of connected to the movie business, and she's interested in doing movies and stuff. So there wasn't.
Should talk to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna introduce you to.
Sure.
She's out there.
Right on.
So this was just open. She had some plans about doing like a Foley kind of oriented studio and stuff in here, but she's not really in the music business. So, and nobody else wanted to come down here and rent the 2 spots down here. So when we were looking for a spot to move out of, that was this was just right down the road, and we just came and talked to her. It ended up being slightly more affordable than we thought it was going to be.
Wow, that's good
to come down here. So we've been down here for 3.5 years, and that's been the biggest breakthrough, is just having you couldn't build a room like this for the money that I've got anywhere else in the world.
It's incredible. You guys have done just a phenomenal job. It looks like it's been here literally forever. It's just, is most of this construction new, or was there something already in here, or you did all of this yourself?
All the stuff like we had to refurbish the speakers that were in here, and we moved the board and all this outboard equipment and the monitors in here, but all the glass and everything on the walls, all that stuff is original.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
All the stuff behind here is original.
Because it's hard to tell, actually, because it's in such good shape.
Oh yeah,
it's hard to tell how old it really is.
It was a working studio for 30 years before they moved out of here.
Right.
And then after that, it just sat kind of completely
Who all had recorded in this studio before you guys took it over, like back in the day? Do you know any of
The biggest ones were Bob Dylan did a record here. They mixed the second Dire Straits record here, which is a great sounding record. Probably in here because I think they did a lot of the recording over on this side, and this was more oriented towards mixing and overdub. Julian Lennon did some stuff here. Bob Seger did some stuff here. I've got a list if you want.
No, it's all good. That's good enough right there, man. And I mean, does it feel? Do you feel like you've done? I mean, not what you see because you're still obviously so young. But do you feel like you've accomplished what you initially were setting out to do at this point in life?
Yes and no.
From where you're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's just luck that I was able to come down here to this spot. And this was kind of, I always dreamed of having a space like this. So in that sense, yes. But in the other sense, it's still a struggle to, the music business is a struggle no matter what you're doing.
Right.
So I still have a day job. I'm still doing that. I would like to take the records that come out of here to kind of the next level, but
exactly.
But it's one step at a time.
Yeah, man. Well, is there anything? I like to end things with like a little bit of like kind of an advice to other people who might be trying to accomplish what you're doing right now. Something, I mean, it doesn't have to be like, you should go for it. Whatever it is that might that may help somebody out there who's kind of stuck thinking, I'd like to do that, but it seems impossible,
I mean, it's I'm not gonna lie, it's a tough job to accomplish, and I'm not even saying that I've accomplished the job. I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
But being able to connect with other people that know way more than you, that have done, worked on a lot more things than you is the best thing to do. That's if you can find somebody that has worked on say a record and you this guy knows what he's doing, or a girl or whoever, they have experience that you can capture if you can be around that.
Like a mentor kind of deal. Did you have a mentor at all in the
Unfortunately, not really. There are some people around that I admire. There are a lot of people around here that I admire that I've spent time, but I haven't really gotten to spend significant amount of time with anybody. But that is the way to anybody. If you'll look around, anybody that is really successful in this field, I think has done that. Has spent some time under somebody else because you need experience. It's just like the 10,000 hour kind of thing. You need 10,000 hours, but you can't get 10,000 hours if you're working 2 jobs or whatever. So you got to find other people and try to get some of that into your life.
That's smart. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that's great advice from Jamie here, and I really appreciate you spending some time with us, letting us get to know you a little bit better.
Absolutely.
And if anybody out there is looking for an amazing place to record some music, I'd say the Cypress Moon Studio is a darn good place to start. It's right, the river's right outside. It's gorgeous, and it's aesthetically very pleasing in here. They keep it extremely clean.
Lucky. We didn't have a session yesterday. That's why it's so
cool. Gotcha. And thanks again, man, so much. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to hoping to see some big albums come out of here in the future.
Me too.
Right on. Love America stuff. That's what we're doing. All right. Well, Jamie, who runs this spot, and we really appreciate all of his hospitality. He's getting some drums set up for Scott, who's going to do a theme song for his YouTube channel, Wasted Times. Indeed. really, really great to chat with a young man who was able to work really hard to have his goal of owning his own studio come to fruition. And I think that anybody who is able to make their dreams come true deserves a hats off. Now, back on the road, Love America Tour, headed to Savannah, not Georgia, Tennessee.